Hi, we're back here at the wall today with Lainey. So clear off some of that clutter, get it out of the way, bring your mat over to the wall, and we're going to practice what I like to call half camel. Some people call this King Arthur's pose. You can call it a quad stretch, you can call it whatever you want. But this is one of my favorite postures. This is great for runners. This is great if you're going to be coming into a lot of what we call back bends, or bow poses, or hero's pose. This is a great pre-posture to really get into the tight tissues of the quadriceps and the psoas and groin, an area of the body that often locks people's pelvises forward. This is an awesome, I've sat all day or I've been in a car and my lower body and back ache, because it kind of works the opposite. When we open up the front of the body, the back of the body benefits. So this is one of my favorite go-to postures, and I never regret doing this posture, no matter how much it kind of hurts. So what you'll need today is you'll need the wall, fold your mat in half. Now if you need knee cushion because kneeling is uncomfortable, grab a yoga jelly or a folded towel, or even fold a portion of your mat again for a little bit extra cushion in order to have that support that you need. You may also need a strap or a sock or a folded hand towel, and I'll show you how to use that in a second. But then most importantly, you're going to need either 2 blocks, or if you know you're stiffer, grab a second set of blocks, or 2 low stools, or 2 kitchen chairs, 1 on each side, and you'll see we'll need those in just a second. But you want some sort of support for your upper body here as we move into half camel. Okay. So I'm going to kind of do as I say along with Lainey for the first part of it here. So coming down into kind of a tabletop position, take your left leg, we're going to do the same as what we say, and slide it up against the wall. Try to bring your knee as close as you can towards the baseboard. Now look where Lainey's knee is, perfect, and her foot is pointing up towards the sky. Right away, if you have any sort of ankle discomfort, like I said in a previous video, I kind of twisted my ankle several times as a kid, so sometimes I need a little bit of support on the top of the foot or the ankle. That's where that folded strap or your sock or your sweatshirt comes in really handy. All right, now for those of us that are really restricted, this might be it, folks. So taking your hands up to the blocks and just working your body into kind of an upright position, trying to tip the pelvis so pubis bone moves forward, almost like you're tucking a little bit the pelvis. You're going to feel that increase in the back leg's quadricep. This might be all as far as you can go. Now don't be misled. For some, this is it. This is really intense. And for others, one leg is like this and the other is a piece of cake. So don't judge the book by the cover for this pose at all. But let's say either 1, this is kind of like, okay, not too bad, or 2, over time you feel that the quad is releasing. You're going to take your bottom leg and step it forward, just like a runner's lunge. Now you might need to help the foot kind of forward a little bit if you feel like you're on the ball of the foot or the foot's kind of caught, so it can be securely flat on the floor. The knee is near the ankle more or less, and this might be kind of that next phase. As the quad starts to give way, you can slowly start to walk your hands back and bring your torso more upright. As you progress, Lainey could take the blocks and stack them. So she has one hand on the blocks and the other hand she could place right on her forearm or on her thigh and kind of use that leverage now to bring herself up and back. She could also double stack a second set of blocks as well if she needed that support, or using her kitchen chairs or her low stools, depending. Now as she works her way up and back, that stretch through the quad is going to intensify. Depending on how she moves during the day, depending if she walks on the outer edges of her feet, if she has a turnout, if she's a leaner, this can change where she feels the stretch in the front of the leg. So 2 things I want her to focus on now are going to be 1, to try to level the hips so she can actually roll that front thigh out and down, and it's actually going to jack up the hip of the back leg. And then 2, neutral the pelvis. So pubis bone, hip bones run parallel with the wall that she's facing. Just that alone, at any angle she's at, is going to intensify that quad stretch. And then finally, she could also think about kind of leaning back and trying to lengthen her lower back up along the wall to really create some length through her spine so the stretch is continuing. If she's noticing any sort of strain on the front leg, if she's all the way back towards the wall, which she is, and maybe you are or one of your students are, she could extend the front leg out a little further so she doesn't feel so much grabbing in the leg. And that might not be necessary for someone a little bit more forward, but if you're using the wall and leveraging against it, just release that front leg out. if you're gonna work with this pose, commit to it. Just that first minute, you're like, okay, where am I? I gotta mentally get on board with this pose. And then that second minute, you're feeling a little bit better. I usually have people in this posture from 1 to 3 to 5 minutes on each side, because it ultimately takes that long just to get comfortable and start to notice the tissues releasing. And then another option here is she's gonna come into what I call the lunging half camel. So 1 block on each side. She can actually keep her front foot where it is. Hands come down onto the blocks. And now keeping a neutral pelvis, so the pubis bone is angling forward. She's not dropping into her tight hip flexors and into her lower back. She's going to slowly start to bring the pelvis forward, much like she would in a deep lunge. So as she comes forward, she's going to notice an increased stretch in that front groin. And she can even kind of angle or roll her hips to kind of be one way or another. And it's like, oh, okay, that's a totally different stretch. So where am I restricted? Where do I need to work? And she can kind of leverage that. Staying here for a minute is probably plenty. And then the second variation in this is what I call the pumping lunge. This is all about bringing more blood flow into those tissues. And so she's going to inhale, pull out a little bit, and then exhale, gently bring it down. And even a smaller movement than that. Inhale, coming up. And exhale, sinking down. Really using that exhale because you're coming in, but then right away you're coming right back out again. And then inhaling, exhaling, and doing maybe 5 to 10 pulses or pumps. Now you don't have to do all this at once, but you could slowly build up a sequence and maybe do the whole sequence in a whole class against the wall and kind of taper these variations in as you go. To come out, she can pull her hips back and either release the back leg down or tuck the front knee down, whatever is easier. And then to counterpose that, she can extend that half camel leg out to the side, massage the knee and quad. Now, if you're feeling a lot of stiffness in that knee and quad, please know that it does get better. That's those tissues starting to change shape. She can also come into a standing forward bend. And as she does this, really noticing, which is always like, wow, one leg feels dramatically different than the opposite side. Here's the cool thing about the hamstrings. This had nothing to do with the hamstrings, but working the opposite side of the body, especially if you have a pulled hamstring or maybe something wonky going on the back of the leg, stop hampering on those tissues and work the opposite side. You can often get a lot better results and a lot quicker release than continually trying to stretch and yank on something that's already irritated and agitated. So half camel is a great go-to for those of you with tight hamstrings or hamstring and glute issues. And then obviously she could come down and do the opposite side, but you can do that on your own time. All right, until next time, great job.